Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Cosmic Business Breakthrough podcast. Today, we are going to talk about supercharging your public reputation sector, aka your midheaven. So, your midheaven sign, or also known as the MC or the medium coli, I'm not entirely sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it is the highest point in your natal chart. It's the top of the chart, especially if you're using the quadrant house system. But in the whole sign house system, there will be a point on your chart, which is a circle with a vertical line through it. That is your midheaven or MC point. This is the point in your chart that's going to show you where you're going in terms of your professional life, in terms of your career, in terms of your business, if you're in business. It's also all about your public image, the image that you present to the world. It's not like your rising sign, which is the persona you present to kind of everyone you meet, friends, family, etc. This is more of the public image that you present to the world. So this episode, we're going to talk about, first of all, how it works, and we're going to talk about how you can work with it, what you need to know in order to work with it to navigate some decisions in your business life and make choices that are going to align with your true calling. Okay? So as I've talked about before, there are a lot of elements in your astrology chart that we look at in terms of understanding your branding, in terms of understanding your client relationships, in terms of understanding your values. The MC or the midheaven point is that point in the chart we look to really show us where you are going. What is it that you are trying to achieve in your public life? And we can also look to the sun sign for this in many ways, but the midheaven is a really specific point, and it might surprise you if you haven't worked with it before. And it also might surprise you when you take it that next step, when you go a little bit deeper with it. So I'm going to kind of open it up for you in this episode. But what I would encourage you to do is go that next step deeper, speak with an astrologer or someone like me, or investigate further if you're studying or if you're diving into astrology, your midheaven point, because this is such a critical point in the chart to master in order for you to go further in your business. Okay? All right. So in astrology, as I've said, the midheaven or MC represents the highest point in the sky at the time of your birth. It is associated with your career, your public image, your reputation. It is your aspirational identity. I can't stress this enough. Your aspirational identity. It's where you want to go. Okay? So how to figure it out? The easiest way to find this point in your chart is to use a free app. I have got another episode. I've got actually a YouTube training on how to set up your free astrology chart, which I'll link to in the show notes. You can use software on your phone. You can use software on your computer, whatever you like. There is a lot of free tools out there for you to uncover your midheaven or MC point. You can use something like Cafe Astrology or astrology.com, where you just pop your info in and it spits out a birth chart to you. Obviously, you can work with a professional astrologer to better understand this point in your chart. So the midheaven is going to give you insights into your natural gifts and talents in the business world. It's going to show you where you can shine in business or in your career, in your public life, right? So the zodiac sign that the midheaven is in, the ruler of that sign, and any planets that are aspecting the MC, the midheaven. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably during this episode, MC or midheaven, will influence your the way you approach your work, your leadership style, and the way that you can best achieve success in whatever your industry or profession is. You're going to be looking for things like planets next to the MC. That's really important to note in your chart. If you have a copy of your chart, look and see if there are any planets right next to that midheaven point within that kind of 8 degrees of your midheaven point, because that conjunction or connection of those planets is really going to amplify whatever your midheaven is doing. So, for instance, if you have the sun conjunct your midheaven, this means your core identity, or the way you kind of shine in the world, is very much linked up with your achievements and your long-term goals. Your aspirational identity and your, I guess, personal identity and your purpose are very much connected. So when you have the sun and the MC combined, it often means you're going to be very visible. You're going to have a lot of kind of sun shining on your career point. So this can often indicate people who are very high profile or even celebrity status. Something to consider. You may have Venus conjunct your midheaven. That indicates those Venus themes of beauty, pleasure, money, the material world, relationships. Those things are going to be very important in your public life as well. Okay, so going further into this, certain aspects, in addition to conjunctions, although they're usually the most powerful, those connections, you might have a trine to your midheaven, you might have square to your midheaven, those kinds of things are going to be very powerful as well in how your career is expressed, right? Or how your business and what your aspirations are in business, how they are expressed. It's going to really push the flavor of that planet or that point into the midheaven's energy. The other thing to consider about the midheaven, which is really important in business, is transits to the midheaven. Okay? When you have a transit to the midheaven, this is when it gets really dynamic and exciting to me, because this can indicate significant shifts and changes in your career or your business direction. It can also be a great time to launch something or to create a new offer. But I'm going to give you an example from my own chart. When Saturn crossed over my MC or midheaven point in 2021-22, I shifted my business to focus on astrology. And that really applies to the sign that my midheaven, the sign and its ruler of my midheaven point. It was like all of a sudden, this was my aspirational identity and I couldn't ignore it. Becoming a business astrologer was critical to my next steps in my public life, in my professional life. So it was just after the pass of Saturn over my midheaven that I launched this podcast. So literally Saturn moved over the exact degree of my midheaven, and a couple of months later, I launched this podcast. Now, Saturn transits are very long, so you wouldn't necessarily expect the thing to happen on that exact date, because that Saturn transit is kind of playing out over several months. So that was, in fact, the idea to launch the podcast started right as that transit happened. And by the time, that transit had progressed, I had launched this specific podcast of astrology for business, right? So it all aligned with me creating and launching this new changed version of my business. And that's why it's so important to understand your midheaven and what's going on there, because then you can work with these transits and understand what's happening and understand that there is a next level of you that is unfolding, or a next step for you. So Saturn really got me on track with what I wanted to be known for and how I want my business to grow in the long term, because those are Saturn themes, right? Growth over the long term. If you're having a Jupiter transit, or you have you either have a Jupiter conjunction, or you have a supportive aspect to your midheaven, you might find you get more opportunities to speak at events or on podcasts, or your reputation is expanded in some way. That's what Jupiter does. It expands, right? Maybe you win an award, or you get praise or recognition for sharing your wisdom, which is another Jupiter keyword. If you have Venus aspecting your midheaven, this could be really juicy. This could relate to a boost in revenue or income. Maybe you sign a new high-ticket client, or you have higher than usual sales, like of your course or your program. It could also relate to an improvement in your branding or your business or your marketing aesthetic, because Venus, again, is about beauty and aesthetics. So it could be money related. It could be even when it crosses over your midheaven, it could relate to even the place of work, getting an upgrade or something like that as well. So think about those things. How exciting is that if you can work with that kind of energy, if you can understand that is going on or that is coming up for you, you can make your plans to work with that energy. If you've got Mars coming up to transit your midheaven or aspect your midheaven, this could really give you a boost of energy to get things done or tackle those big jobs you've been putting off. If you know you've got a lot of work to do, scheduling it when you have a helpful Mars transit to your midheaven or career zone can really get things moving along a lot more quickly and productively. Mars can be used in this really productive, efficient way when you know it's coming. Mars can also help you start new projects or initiate some public-facing activities, some visibility. It gives you that courage to get in front of people, to be more visible, to be more out there potentially. A Sun transit to your midheaven will do a similar thing you'll have the Sun transiting your midheaven every year, because the Sun, we know that happens. You might not have a Mars transit to your midheaven every year, but you will have a Sun transit to your midheaven every year. So that can be a really good time to go, this is when I do my main launch for the year, or this is when I do my main visibility activity. I certainly used the Sun on my midheaven this year to really boost my visibility, and it can be very effective for that. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a walk through the different signs and how they express when they're on your MC or your midheaven. Okay, but I want to stress that these are general expressions of the midheaven. When you understand the ruler of your MC and how that operates in your chart, you're going to get a much fuller picture, a much more detailed, explanation of your aspirational identity or your aspirational public image. So this is something that we would review in a session together. I'm also going to give you a couple of examples at the end for you to start, thinking about and considering when it comes to your own public reputation. So if you have the midheaven in Aries, this expresses as a dynamic and ambitious leader, someone who's driven by a desire for independence and pioneering or initiating new ventures in whatever their chosen field is. That's kind of that Aries energy expressed on the midheaven point. If you have a Taurus midheaven, this often expresses as a very reliable and practical professional, someone who is very focused on building stability and financial security. They can also be focused on those Venusian themes, like building, like in the beauty industry, or building things of value, building things of both of physical value, but also of aesthetic value. So the Taurus midheaven is very much about not only reliability and practicality, but also about those material, physical, and beautiful things. But never forget money when it comes to Taurus as well. A Gemini midheaven often expresses as someone who's very versatile and communicative, someone who thrives in jobs or professions or businesses that involve networking, writing, teaching, or media and public relations. They have a knack for adapting to changing trends, for communicating with people from different walks of life, from connecting the dots. I've talked a lot about this with Gemini energy. It's very much about connecting the dots. And this, again, we'll talk about how this might express depending on where the ruler of your midheaven is in your chart. If you have a Cancer midheaven, this can express as a very nurturing and empathetic professional, someone with a strong focus on creating a supportive and harmonious environment for people, whether that is their coaching clients, whether it is about showing more emotion or using emotion as part of their work. Emotion and empathy can be part of their work. This could relate to someone who is a persuasive writer as well, who uses emotion and empathy to get their message across. A Leo midheaven person often expresses as someone who is very confident and charismatic. They're seeking recognition and success in roles that are going to allow them to shine, things like entertainment, public speaking, or entrepreneurship. However, the Leo midheaven can also express itself in a way that is allowing their people to shine, right? Allowing their aspirational identity is to help people to shine in some way. It's not only them shining. The midheaven point can often be something that you're helping people to do as well. So think about it like that. The Virgo midheaven is very much about the details. It's a detail-oriented and analytical professional, someone who uses their eye for detail, their ability to be very precise in their business. It's often someone who has a public image of being very organized, being a good problem solver, being analytical. Those are the expressions of that Virgo midheaven. A Libra midheaven often comes across as a very diplomatic and harmonious person in business, someone with a strong focus on creating balance and fairness in whatever their public role is, someone who's very much focused on, again, those Venusian themes of beauty, harmony, relationships, all of that stuff. So this can also express as someone in the beauty industry, for instance, but often if you're in online business, your Libra midheaven might express in terms of the way that you deal with your clients or the way that your offer comes across. So how are you showing those MC themes of diplomacy, of harmony, of balance, of fairness? Maybe you are all about creating a program, for instance, that is about balancing work and motherhood or something like that. Like, what is it that you do that really uses those themes of balance, fairness, harmony, relationships, or collaboration? That's the Libra midheaven. The Scorpio midheaven often expresses as this intense and determined professional, someone who has a drive for power or transformation in some way, someone who wants to really shift and change things. It can often be someone who works in unusual professions, someone who works or in in a business that is somehow allowing people to access power and transformation. Sagittarius midheaven people often express as very adventurous and visionary. So they have a strong desire for their own personal growth and expanding their horizons and the horizons of the people that they work with, of their clients or their customers. So these people are often leaders in their chosen field. They're often showing the way for others as well, but they're very much also focused on their own personal growth and expanding their own horizons, or, allowing that exploration into their own life. Capricorn midheaven people express as this ambitious and disciplined people or business owners. They have a focus on their long-term goals and building a solid reputation. They know that whatever actions they're taking they're taking now are for the long term. And they also help other people or help their clients to create things for the long term, or to adjust things for the long term, right? And to adjust things to build a solid reputation, or to improve their reputation in some way. Aquarius midheaven people often have an innovative or an unconventional professional approach. They're doing something that's a little bit out of the box. They're doing something in business that is unusual in some way, but they also want to create some sort of progress with whatever they're creating. So, and that's, reflective of that kind of new agey type energy of Aquarius. Pisces midheaven people often express as very compassionate and intuitive professionals. They have a focus on connecting with their clients or with their communities on a deeper level. So these people, or these business owners or entrepreneurs, often have kind of a unique or very more emotional way of connecting with their clients, with their customers. People see them as not only business owners or entrepreneurs, but also as someone that they can identify with, someone they can feel held by in that sense. That Pisces energy is that, ability to hold space for emotions. So this might be a really good placement for someone who is a coach or a spiritual practitioner or something like that. Okay. Now I want to give you some examples of how this works with the ruler of your midheaven. So for someone who has an Aquarius midheaven ruled by the planet Saturn, because Saturn rules Aquarius and Capricorn. So if you have Saturn in Gemini in your chart, you have an Aquarius midheaven, but you have Saturn, the ruler, in Gemini. Your business may relate to communication, media, or technology. So this is where we kind of bounce back to get that second layer of your aspirational identity or your key point of difference in business. We bounce back to the ruler of the planet. So the ruler of the point, rather, and or the ruler of the planet, depending on what we're talking about. In this case, the ruler of the MC is Saturn in Gemini. This means writing, journalism, public speaking, social media management, copywriting, all of these things may be that person's career, maybe where they're going, maybe what they're helping people with in a public way. Their ability to effectively convey complex ideas and information in a clear and concise way can make them very valuable in those marketing or advertising fields. They could also have great careers or great public reputations in technology, innovation, or research, places where they need to stay up to date with those latest changes or advancements or algorithms, right? And trends can also be a really good fit for people who have an Aquarius midheaven ruled by Saturn in Gemini. Let's switch it up and go the opposite. What about someone with a Leo midheaven that's ruled by the sun in Pisces? So a good career path for someone with a Leo midheaven with ruled by the sun in Pisces is someone who could be in the creative industry, creative arts, entertainment. They may do really well in businesses that allow them to express their unique creativity and their imagination. Things like potentially acting, music, writing, or visual arts, graphic design, right? They have an ability to tap into their emotions, that Pisces, and connect with others on a deep level. That's all Pisces and that Pisces sun energy. And so these things like, healing, spirituality, holistic therapies may be a good fit. And they have this natural ability to bring warmth, compassion, and inspiration to others. So the midheaven is going to allow them, the midheaven in Leo is going to allow them to spread that to others, is going to be what draws people to them as well. That midheaven in Leo is like, moths to a flame. So people are going to be drawn to them for those, sun in Pisces qualities. Let's do one more. For someone with a Taurus midheaven ruled by Venus in Aries. I really like this one. This is kind of like two opposites. You've got Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, but if you have Venus in Aries, you have this kind of both Venus and Mars acting at the same time. And a good career path for you, if you've got a Taurus midheaven ruled by Venus in Aries, often relates to finance, entrepreneurship, or the arts, or a combination of those three. Okay, your business may combine all three. You might really do well in a business that involves managing money or investments, but your determination and drive can make you a very successful entrepreneur because you have this natural ability to take risks and initiate new things with Venus in Aries, right? Careers also or business ideas that involve the arts, design, all that sort of Venus type stuff can also be a really good fit because you have a strong sense of aesthetics and you have a passion, combining that Mars and Venus together, that passion for creating tangible and luxurious things, experiences for people. So the tangible is the Taurus, right? The passion is the Aries. So you're bringing both of those things together. And you've also got often people with, something like a Taurus midheaven ruled by Venus in Aries. These people are going to have a very bold and assertive energy to their work. They're going to really want to stand out to achieve success. So that is how the midheaven works. If you want to explore how to work with your own midheaven in your business, my best advice is to book a one-on-one call because it's quite a detailed process. And I love exploring this with my clients because it's often a real light bulb moment, often very affirming for you if you're already going down this path. Understanding that it is actually there in your astrology chart can be very affirming for you and can really help you to go, yes, I'm on the right path. And it just gives you that little upgrade of like, okay, what else could I be doing here? Or what else could I shift and change to work even more with that zone of genius for myself, with that aspirational identity? So book a call. This is where I'm going to give you some really powerful personalized insights to help you align your marketing and your visibility strategy with your astrology profile. So you're going to get better resonance and results. Okay. Thank you for listening. I will speak to you again very soon.